Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The pulsating lights and the thumping bass of the music set a surreal backdrop for the corporate party. Everyone was dressed to impress, laughing and mingling with drinks in hand. I had tagged along somewhat reluctantly, not really a part of this world, but there to support my wife, Lana, a senior marketing executive at the company. As I leaned against the bar, nursing a whiskey, a jovial man in his mid-30s approached, flashing a smile that seemed too carefree for someone who had just discussed quarterly reports. He introduced himself as Derek, a project manager in Lana's department. "Great party, huh? The company really goes all out," Derek said, his eyes scanning the room as if looking for someone. "Yeah, it's impressive," I replied, taking a sip of my drink, trying to seem as engaged as he was. Derek leaned closer, lowering his voice as if to share a confidential matter. "You know, it's at these parties that the real exciting stuff happens. Not just the dancing and the drinking." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. "Oh. How so?" He chuckled, swirling his drink. "Let's just say, the thrill of forbidden fruit is a bit of a hobby for some of us here." My interest piqued, I prodded him further. "Forbidden fruit?" "Yeah," Derek continued, oblivious to the growing knot in my stomach. "I'm seeing someone from here. It's a secret, you know. The thrill of sneaking around, it really adds to the excitement. She's married, too. Makes it all the more intense." The casual way he spoke about it struck a nerve, but curiosity pushed me to ask, "Really? That sounds risky. Who is she?" He hesitated, a sly smile spreading across his face. "Well, I probably shouldn't say, but what the hell, you don't know her. It's Lana Rivers." "But shoo, don't tell anyone." The name echoed in my head like a gunshot. Lana. My wife, the person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. My vision blurred momentarily, my grip tightening around the glass. Derek, misreading my shock for amusement, clapped me on the shoulder. "Crazy, right? The way we managed to keep it all under wraps." I forced a laugh, my mind racing. "Yeah, crazy." The rest of the evening was a blur. I excused myself, claiming a sudden migraine, needing to escape the noise, the people, and most of all, Derek's proud, unwitting confessions. As I drove home alone, the night's revelations replayed over and over in my mind. Lana's late nights at the office, the unexplained absences, her guarded behavior with her phone, it all made a cruel sense now. Sitting in the dark silence of our bedroom, I resolved that Derek's casual betrayal would be met not with despair, but with action. Lana had shattered our vows, and I would ensure she faced the consequences. My plan began to take shape, a plan that would end with me severing all ties, ensuring that Lana and I would never cross paths again. The story of our life together would be closed with a final, devastating chapter. The next morning dawned like any other, but for me, the world had shifted on its axis. I woke up early, slipping out of bed while Lana still lay sleeping, her face peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing just across the pillow. As I brewed coffee, the plan formulated last night began to take shape with cold clarity. First, I needed undeniable proof of Lana's infidelity. That meant tracking her movements, monitoring her communications, whatever it took. I started with her phone. It was a risk to snoop through it while she could wake at any moment and catch me. My hands shook as I typed in the passcode, an anniversary date, now a cruel irony. I went straight to her messages. There, hidden in a conversation labeled as PM Work, were the texts between her and Derek. They were careful, using coded language, but the intent was clear enough. "Can't wait for our next meeting. Last time was explosive," one of Derek's messages read. "Agreed. We need to be careful, but it's worth the risk," Lana had replied. Screenshot. Evidence 1. Next, I installed a GPS tracker on her car. While she showered, I slipped outside, planting the device in a discreet spot under her rear bumper. If she was meeting Derek, I'd know the when and where. The day passed in a haze. I acted the part of the doting husband, while inside, a cold fury settled deep in my bones. When Lana left for a work event that evening, I didn't follow immediately. Instead, I waited, giving her enough rope. At home, I set up my laptop, the GPS tracking software open and updating in real time. It showed her car parked at an upscale hotel downtown, not the kind of place you go for a work event. I grabbed my camera, needing photographic proof for the confrontation and whatever might follow legally. When I arrived, the hotel was busy, a perfect cover. I found a position across the street, camera lens focused on the main entrance. An hour later, Lana and Derek emerged, laughing, his arm around her waist. I snapped several photos, the sound of the shutter like a judge's gavel in my mind. They parted ways at the hotel entrance, and I followed Derek. Confronting him now wasn't the plan, but I needed to scare him, disrupt their affair more overtly. I caught up to him as he was about to get into his car in the parking lot. "Derek!" I called out sharply. He turned, surprised, his smile fading when he saw my expression. "Who are you?" he asked, wary now. "I think you know exactly who I am. I'm Lana's husband. And I know everything." Derek paled, his mouth opening and closing like he was gasping for air. "Look, I didn't." "Save it," I cut him off, stepping closer, my voice low and menacing. "You end it, or I will end it for you in ways you can't imagine. This is your only warning." I didn't wait for his response, turning on my heel and leaving him there, shaken. As I drove home, the adrenaline began to ebb, replaced by a hollow feeling. But there was no turning back now. Lana's betrayal would not go unanswered, and my plan was only just beginning. As the sun set, casting long shadows across our living room, I sat on the couch, the printed photos and screenshots spread out before me like an accusation laid bare. The evidence was irrefutable, damning. Each image, each message, a visceral blow to the remains of our shared life. The sound of Lana's key turning in the lock announced her return. My heart hammered with a cocktail of dread and anger. She entered the house, her smile faltering as she caught the grim set of my face. "What's wrong?" Lana asked, her voice tinged with a concern that now seemed mockingly insincere. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I gestured to the seat opposite me. As she sat, I slid the pile of evidence across the coffee table towards her. Lana glanced down, her eyes widening as she took in the contents. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You tell me," I replied, folding my arms as I watched her reaction. She picked up a photo, her fingers trembling slightly. "This isn't what it looks like," she began, her voice shaky. "I think it's exactly what it looks like," I cut in sharply. "You and Derek. Hotel meetups, secret messages. How long, Lana?" She was silent for a long moment, her face pale. "6 months, she finally murmured. "It was a mistake. I'm so sorry." "A mistake?" My voice rose slightly. "You deliberately chose to betray our marriage repeatedly. That's not a mistake, that's a decision." Lana's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no sympathy. Only a cold resolve. "I don't understand how you could do this to us," I said, my voice cracking slightly despite my resolve. "I don't know either. It was stupid. It just happened," she pleaded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It didn't just happen. You made it happen," I retorted. "I trusted you, Lana. And you shattered that trust into pieces. I know, and I regret it every day. Please, can we try to work this out?" Her voice was desperate, seeking redemption. I shook my head, the decision firm in my mind. "No. It's over, Lana. I can't even look at you without seeing the lies. What are you going to do? Her voice was now a whisper, fearful. I want a divorce, I stated plainly. And I want you to move out. Tomorrow. Lana sobbed, her body shaking with the force of her grief. But my heart had hardened against her pleas. The betrayal was too deep, the wound too raw. I'll stay at a hotel tonight, she said finally, standing shakily. I'll gather my things tomorrow. As she walked to the door, her steps uncertain, a part of me wanted to call out, to say something, anything that might bridge the chasm that had opened between us. But I remained silent, the coldness settling deep within me. After she left, the house felt oppressively silent. The life we had built together was crumbling, destroyed by deception. But as I looked around, the clarity of my decision fortified my resolve. This was the end of our chapter, but the start of my new beginning, free from the shadows of deceit. The quiet in the house was a sharp contrast to the turmoil that raged within me as I planned the final steps of my revenge. The deception had been laid bare, and with it, my resolve hardened into something cold and unforgiving. Lana's betrayal had not only ended our marriage but had ignited a darker side of me, one that sought retribution in the shadows of the pain she had caused. A few days had passed since Lana moved out. The time alone had given me the opportunity to orchestrate a plan that would ensure her and Derek's downfall was both public and devastating. I began by anonymously sending the evidence of their affair to their company's HR department. The scandal of a senior executive involved with a subordinate threatened the professional reputations they both cherished. But that was only the beginning. I waited until the night of the company's big annual gala, a night when everyone who was anyone in Lana's professional circle would be there. Dressed sharply, I arrived with an air of detached calm, a digital copy of the affair evidence loaded onto a USB drive in my pocket. The gala was in full swing when I arrived, the ballroom echoing with laughter and music. I spotted Lana and Derek, now visibly ostracized by their colleagues, standing awkwardly at the edge of the room. Seeing them together fueled my resolve. I approached the AV technician, posing as a last-minute addition from the company's PR team. I have something that needs to be shown during the presentation. It's from the top, I lied smoothly, handing over the USB. He nodded, not bothering to question further. As the lights dimmed for the presentation, I watched from the back, my heart beating a steady, grim rhythm. The first slides were innocuous, company achievements, growth charts. Then, abruptly, the screen changed. Photos of Lana and Derek, intimate, undeniable, filled the screen. Gasps and murmurs swept through the room. Lana's face drained of color as she stood frozen, her eyes wide with horror. Derek looked around frantically, his career unraveling in real time before the industry leaders he once impressed. Before the chaos could escalate, I left, satisfaction cold in my veins. My revenge wasn't just personal, it was total. Their professional lives were now as broken as the trust and vows between Lana and me. But there was one last piece to my plan. Later that night, as the city lay quiet, I drove to Derek's house. I knew he would be alone, Lana too ashamed to face anyone. I waited in the darkness, patience a steady pulse within me. When he arrived, his steps uncertain and slow, I stepped out of the shadows, confronting him one last time. Everything you valued is now as ruined as the life I had with Lana. Was it worth it? I asked, my voice low and menacing. Derek stumbled back, fear evident in his eyes. Please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he pleaded. You chose this, I said simply. Just like I choose this. With a swift motion, I smashed his car windows with a bat I'd brought, the sound of shattering glass cutting through the night air. Derek didn't try to stop me, he was too broken, too late. As I left Derek to his misery, I didn't look back. The finality of my action cemented a new path for me, one free from betrayal. Lana and Derek would always remember this night, the night their deceit cost them everything. And as for me, I was finally free, the chains of their betrayal shattered by my own hands of retribution.